Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, all protocols observed, I thank ECOWAS and EBID for inviting me to be part of this forum today. I'm sorry I could not join you in person, not just because West Africa is home, but because this event is looking at the right questions at the right time. We know the context ECOWAS countries are grappling with. Across the region, growth is sluggish, despite some bright spots, and inflation and debt distress are adding to the pressures. The IMF estimates real GDP grew by 3.3% in 2023 and will expand by 4.1% this year, not enough to make a serious dent in poverty. Scarce opportunities at home are pushing so many of our young people to risk their lives in the hope of making a living elsewhere. The security situation in the Sahel is going from bad to worse, and so is extreme weather. Meanwhile, the international arena is marked by tight borrowing conditions, geopolitical tensions, and a backlash against trade in some rich economies. Despite all this, I want to make the case to you today that we should see in these challenges a series of opportunities. Beyond these very visible clouds, the stars are aligning for West Africa and the continent more generally to attract investment and use trade to drive economic growth, value addition, foreign exchange earnings, and job creation. It would be a mistake to read today's headlines about trade tensions and give up on commerce as a force for growth and development. International trade has shown surprising resilience in recent years, bouncing back strongly from repeated shocks like the COVID-19 pandemic and the war in Ukraine. The volume of merchandise trade in the final quarter of 2023 was 6.3% higher than the pre-pandemic peak in the third quarter of 2019 and 19.1% higher than the average for 2015. Commercial services trade has witnessed even more robust growth, with a 21% increase in terms of US dollar values in 2023 compared to 2019. Moreover, while the recent shocks did expose vulnerabilities in global supply chains, the fact is that attracting export-oriented investment to ECOWAS and other parts of Africa would actually help address these vulnerabilities head-on. By deconcentrating and diversifying supply chains, it would make them more resilient to shocks. At the WTO, we are calling this re-globalization. Successfully bringing more regions from the margins to the mainstream of the global division of labor would boost growth, job creation, and resilience. Re-globalization is already underway, with companies adding suppliers to reduce rising wage and other costs, and to diversify economic and political risks. But we need this to go beyond +1, China plus Vietnam, say, or plus India, to encompass Nigeria, Ghana, Senegal, Togo, and so on. At least 3 additional factors also favor greater investment into West Africa and into the continent more generally. First, demographics. In an aging world, our growing young populations offer the workforce and the markets of tomorrow. Second, regional integration through the African Continental Free Trade Area. This offers potential investors in West Africa, both foreign and domestic, the attractive prospect of a large and unified market of 1.4 billion people and a much stronger base for exporting to the rest of the world. And third, the increasing importance of trade in services, and particularly digitally delivered services. These sectors are creating major opportunities, especially for tech-savvy young Africans and for businesses run by women. However, to seize the current window of opportunity, we have a great deal of ground to make up. ECOWAS members account for only about 0.5% of global merchandise trade, and exports are mostly raw commodities. Africa as a whole accounted for under 3% of global trade in 2022. To successfully re-globalize, governments need to act across multiple fronts, including their own supply-side environments. Lowering trade costs has to be a priority here. African businesses currently face trade costs equivalent to a 354% tariff, 1.5 times the level in high-income countries. For intra-African trade, the costs are 1/5 higher, equivalent to a 435% tariff. Costs this high are neither a recipe for building continental value chains nor for tapping into global ones. ECOWAS countries need to improve hard and soft infrastructure, better roads, ports, and access to electricity and internet, as well as more efficient border processes so that goods are not subject to costly customs delays. I urge you to look at the WTO as an ally in your pursuit of investment and integration. At the most basic level, open and predictable access to export markets, the WTO's bread and butter, helps crowd in investment. In addition, the implementation of existing WTO rules, particularly a trade facilitation agreement, is helping bring down trade costs for businesses across the continent by simplifying trade and documentation procedures and promoting customs cooperation. The WTO's Trade Facilitation Agreement facility has been working with all ECOWAS members and consulting with cross-border traders to identify sources of border bottleneck costs. The Community Customs Code has been modernized, and a new electronic system for managing transit goods has been deployed along key corridors, reducing border costs and increasing revenue. Several additional initiatives at the WTO will also help make West Africa and the rest of the continent more attractive to prospective investors. Most prominent among these is the Agreement on Investment Facilitation for Development, recently finalized among 125 of our 166 members at our 13th Ministerial Conference in Abu Dhabi. The Investment Facilitation for Development Agreement promises to make it easier for countries to attract much-needed long-term investment by sweeping away bureaucratic barriers. It will simplify administrative procedures and streamline investment approval processes. Single online information portals will make relevant information more accessible to investors. EBID estimates that ECOWAS alone has an annual investment shortfall of $12 billion. Signing on to the IFD, the Investment Facilitation for Development Agreement, is a signal of intent to improve the investment climate. That's why I'm so proud that 13 of the 15 members of ECOWAS have signed on. I won't name the other two. You know who you are, and you should sign up soon. We hope to bring the IFD agreement officially into the WTO framework. Some members have some reservations about doing so, and I hope these can be overcome in the coming months. Another positive step at MC13 was the extension for 2 more years of a long-standing WTO moratorium that spares cross-border digital transmissions from import duties. Continued predictability in this area is good news for young West Africans active in the global digital economy. A less well-known aspect of the WTO's work is what we do on the supply side to help countries take advantage of trade opportunities. We are partnering with the World Bank to help African countries overcome the digital divide and ensure that people can take advantage of the fast-growing digital economy. The World Bank has allocated about $1 billion in funding for building and upgrading digital infrastructure, starting in 9 pilot countries, whilst the WTO will provide support on the necessary regulatory infrastructure. The new Women Exporters in the Digital Economy Wide Fund, launched by the WTO and ITC, the International Trade Center, will support women entrepreneurs to scale up businesses and access global value chains. When the fund opens for application soon, I hope women from across West Africa will apply. We have seen time and again in our region that the talent and business ideas are here. All that is missing very often is a bit of capital and advice. Finally, through our initiatives like the Enhanced Integrated Framework and the Standards and Trade Development Facility, the WTO works directly to equip and empower small businesses in developing countries to connect to global markets. The impacts can be transformative. I have met women from a shea butter cooperative in Nigeria's Oyo State for whom obtaining international quality and safety certification opened the door to lucrative export markets and lasting increases in their incomes that have allowed them to send their children to higher education and invest in side businesses. Just last month, the STDF and the ITC International Trade Center, launched a project to do something similar in the cowpeas and sesame sectors. Our enhanced integrated framework is providing support to all 11 of the LDC members of ECOWAS. To take one example, in Togo, the EIF support for the soybean value chain helped boost production from 25,000 tons in 2015 to 300,000 tons in 2022. Togo became the first country to export organic soybeans to Europe. The increase in soybean production in Togo has catalyzed Indian investment of around $25 million in conventional and organic soya oil production. Excellencies, let me now conclude. The challenges we face in the region are real, but we should reimagine them as opportunities to attract investment and accelerate trade growth and development. What's really exciting is that if we look closely, we can already see glimpses of a re-globalizing West Africa. Last month in Kaduna, I saw a cutting-edge pharmaceutical facility that produces intravenous fluids and is now moving to produce therapeutics and vaccines for domestic use and for export to the region via the African Continental Free Trade Area. Let's work together to build on these examples and create a better future for people across the ECOWAS communities. Thank you and good luck with the conference.